I would be remiss if we didn't deal with Bernini and deal with his ecstasy of St. Teresa. Here, Bernini uses his knowledge of theater gleaned from his experience as a playwright and stage designer to enhance the theatricality so common in the Baroque. St. Teresa herself is a nun of the Carmelite order and one of the great saints of the Spanish Counter-Reformation. Her conversion happened after the death of her father, when she fell into a series of trances in which she heard voices and saw visions. After these experiences, she claimed to have persistent chest pain, which she attributed to the fire-tipped arrow of divine love that an angel repeatedly thrust into her heart. The niche in which the sculpture appears is set on a shallow stage. On either side, we see shallow carved portraits of the patrons, which watch from balcony seats. Now, that's kind of interesting. What it's doing is it's giving you a sensory impact, useful in increasing devotion and piety in the viewer, thus accomplishing the primary goal of art during the Counter-Reformation. Now, let me back up here for a second. Let's consider what you're looking at. I want to give you a little more context. What we have here is an altar. Bernini's sculpture is effectively a sculptural altarpiece. Makes a lot of sense. It's the sort of thing that we would expect to see anywhere. But it changes because now we have those carved box seats. And that's not something you would expect within a church. Now, Bernini has a problem when he's sculpting. He's trying to figure out what to do with the patrons. Obviously, people have paid for this. They want to, in the Renaissance tradition, be depicted in the art. So where do you put them? And he puts them in these box seats where they can eternally sit and watch this miracle take place. And look at the detail of it. The patrons themselves seem to be almost sculpted in the round, and then that incredible relief sculpture in the background, complete with different colors of stone and other material, which allows him to set off architectural detail and create three-dimensional space when seen from this vantage point. Now, obviously, if I'm standing right at the altar, it doesn't have quite the same impact, but you get the idea. So he's trying to increase the theatricality. By increasing the theatricality, he's hoping that it makes the viewer more passionate about their Christianity. And he's going to go one step further. Not only do we have the box seats, but there's a hidden window, and you never see this in the pictures, but there's a window up above, and that window outside has the window here, which shines down, and this is the back. This is behind our ecstasy of St. Teresa. It sits in that niche. So this window lets in light, which comes through this window, reflects off the gold rays, casting a constant divine golden hue across the white sculpture. He's trying to think of everything to increase the drama because it's a miracle that you're watching. It's really an interesting piece that way. Now, let's talk about the piece itself. Let's talk about interpretation. I want to deal with two different issues. First, let's talk about context. What do you see? Well, we have an angel who appears to be smiling and about to stab an unconscious Carmelite nun. In context, in a church, we go, okay, that's a miracle. But if I take it out of context, if I put it in a cornfield or even a museum, suddenly it changes the context. It changes how we see it. So while in the church we can go, okay, there's some divinity here, there's got to be a spiritual element, a miracle. When we take it out of that context, suddenly you see an act of homicide. An angel who appears to be killing a woman. And we don't know who the woman is, and we don't know who the angel is, and we don't know why this angel seems convinced that he needs to stab this woman, even if it's a fire-tipped arrow of love. I don't care if it's a fire-tipped arrow of love. It's an act of homicide outside of the context. But again, you put it in a church, whole different story. Secondly, look at the robes. When you look at St. Teresa, you will see that she seems to be in a mountain of robes. Maybe 20 yards of wool is piled over her. And it's not that she's particularly cold, nor is it that they would dress that way. Instead, the shaping of the robe, that really busy, almost constantly dynamic and moving robe, is showing us her religious fervor. So it's a necessity. It's symbolism, basically showing us that she is in this religious trance. Otherwise, we simply have an unconscious woman. If he depicts her realistically, it doesn't make as much sense. But with those robes seeming to float around her, it gives us that sense of religious passion, religious fervor that she must be going through during these states of ecstasy. Now, Bernini's inventiveness, technical skill, and devout nature are characteristics that would make him the quintessential Italian Baroque artist.